I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Get it. You know, this outfit you have on
Cozy?
matches this music.
And our microphones.
That too.
I didn't plan that.
You are exactly. AfterBuzz mascot, ladies and gentlemen. Allison Dean. What's up, everybody? You know what it is. It's your boy, Lim Gonzalez, a.k.a. Uncle Lim, here to discuss The Outsider. This show keeps getting more confusing. Oh, my gosh. We're going to talk about it. I got my girl, Allison Dean,
Hi.
a.k.a. AfterBuzz TV mascot, in the building, looking amazing.
Oh, hey.
We're missing April Wisenhat today, but she will be back next week. She'll be back next week.
Yeah.
She'll be back next week. All right, so this episode, we were kind of talking a little
Trippy.
bit, and I was like, okay, let's save it for
I know.
the air.
We always do that.
Yeah, but this show does this to you because it's one of those shows that literally, like, you can make your own predictions and keep going. And be like, oh, wait, what is it? Because anytime I believe that you bring in the supernatural element, it's endless.
Game's
the
off.
possibilities are endless.
Totally.
What did you think about this particular episode?
I mean, my mind was kind of cloudy after. My mind kind of resembled the back of Jack's neck after this episode.
Oh gosh! Oh my gosh! Please.
Well, that was a bad visual.
That was a terrible visual.
Like kind of bubbly and
Oh gosh!
I don't know. Is it pussy filled? I don't know. It was just it's just
gross.
like a gnarly episode.
Yeah.
Truly, this one was another one where we were getting nuggets, but then we were getting a lot of questions. So, like almost more questions for me.
Yeah.
And also frustration. I feel like this one they're all kind of blending together now, but I definitely felt a little frustrated. I'm starting to get frustrated as it relates to Jack and no one figuring out, no one seeing the crap on the back of his neck, right? So one, that's annoying.
Well, the figuring out part, I mean, it's coming. I feel like it's coming because we did see the scene where, he's asked, like, you don't even want to hold the baby.
What's going on with you? Yeah, right,
exactly.
right.
So I feel like it's coming, but yes, it's gradual.
She was suspicious of him, for sure.
Sure.
But then Ralph was, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so my mind was a little frustrated. And bubbly.
I was watching this episode, and as I told you before we started, that I had to rewind a bunch of times throughout the episode because, wait a second. And I felt like I would miss something, especially when the boogeyman, I'm going to call, actually, which I did appreciate finally getting not just the visual, but the voice. And have him actually, instead of just implied, the girls, little girls talking about, he visited me and he told me, or this person, actually hearing, even though couldn't understand, sometimes I was like, wait, what did you say? Wait, hold on. So I did appreciate getting that because that makes that aspect of the show, we touched down on that.
Yeah.
So I can see where people are getting this. And kind of how it's developing. As you said before, we're halfway through.
I know.
So we have 5 more episodes. So there's a lot, that they have to cover still. And I feel like with Stephen King, I don't know if we'll get all of it when it's done.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Because I think there'll be more like, well, wait about this, So I say all that to say, I was really confused this episode because of a lot of things. And kind of like what you were saying. Yes, they gave us nuggets. They did, that breadcrumb situation we kind of got over here. And we're like, oh, okay, now we know why this is happening. And now we know why this is happening. But then there's other things that we still don't understand yet.
Yeah.
We still don't have a grasp on.
Yeah.
When it even starts, we see that as it starts off and in true fashion, we see obviously a clip of something, an opening, and then it goes into the credits, and then we starts off with our show. And this particular time, we saw a young black man that got shot by the police and shot dead. And then camera zooms in, and we see the nastiness on his neck. So we know he's infected, right, by the boogeyman. And so then it goes to 3 days earlier, and then we see that same person folding clothes and putting it on an empty bed.
Yep.
And then we cut to Jack, who we know that, obviously he's infected because we know he's infected. At this point, no one else knows because he's still kind of acting, he's acting weird, but it's still not enough to be like, okay, something is wrong with him.
Full medical analysis right now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we see he's out in the forest, and he's basically, because this is happening to him, he's starting to go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just wilding out in the forest. And we see him at some point in time. I wanted to ask you, when he's kind of checking in on Ralph, and he sees that Ralph and the rest of the team that are investigating everything that they're doing, he's kind of spying on them in a sense. What do you think that was about?
I think he was being mentally controlled at that point to infiltrate the situation, because everyone else around knows that he's a police officer, and that's the extent of what they know.
Right.
And I think Boogeyman wants to understand what's going on. I mean, on one level, if you're like the Boogeyman, do you really need someone infiltrating? Don't you just know things? I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. But
well, it could be a situation when I think of sci-fi pictures, right? And you see an alien and it needs a host, right? And it affects and it gets to the host. The host then is allowed to
manipulate situations.
Exactly.
So that's true. So Jack could be being leveraged to try and manipulate whatever
that's a good point.
Their fact-finding mission is all about right now. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay. I didn't think about that, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because that does make sense. Because obviously the Boogeyman needs to find out this information, because we do see later something that happens, which we'll get into in a second, because he's got this information. One of the other things is we see Ralph's wife, Ginny. Is this the first time that we see her job, or the recovery center?
First time we saw, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So she works at a recovery center, and so she has people coming in, former drug addicts, things of that nature, and she's checking them. I'm sure the parole is kind of tied into that. And so, but she feels like things are weird there.
Super weird. And I thought they were super weird.
And so we see at some point in time where we think it could be the Boogeyman.
I think it was him in the first, when against the wall, when it was the hooded thing that was sitting against the wall. I thought that was for sure him.
You think that was him?
And then he left when she went into the room with the first person. Or the second person. And then it was two other hooded people. Right. But when she said, okay, no hoods in here, and then the one guy took his off. And
right. And we thought that the Boogeyman could have been the other guy, but it was just a guy that was sleeping.
Correct.
Right.
But I think he was in there.
He was in there at some point in time.
I
think he was too, because that would make sense, because we see that he then visits her after the fact, which was crazy, which we'll get into in a second. But we do see that she does tell Ralph about what happens. Things are getting weird, and she ends up sleeping, and all night, and then throughout the day, and then Ralph kind of wakes her up, and she's just like, "What are you leave me alone?" And we find out. Because I was thinking, has she been infected? What's going on?
Right.
But really, she's just still reeling over her son.
And she could have... Oh, well, I think that was a flashback, actually. So I think when he saw her foot that was bleeding, that was a direct thing from the night before. But then there was a flashback moment of...
So you're saying when... Okay.
We had a flashback moment, because it was definitely giving us backstory of when Ralph was drinking excessively after their son died, and then when she was clearly kind of out of sorts. So it felt like it was a year prior.
So you think
it was not a clear break.
It was not.
No, I totally, because I for a second had to stop and be like, what? Where are we right now? But when Ralph was looking at her toe that was bleeding, that was directly after.
Yeah, I got that part. But you're talking about, I'm talking about when she it appeared that she slept all night and then all day.
That was right after the son died.
That was after.
Yes.
Okay, so that was a flashback.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But it was confusing to me too.
It was confusing. So I'm like, wait, she's feeling the sun. She's still reeling over him.
Yeah.
But we did see that, just jumping ahead, that Ralph did get a visit, whether it's by dream or not, from the son at the very end.
Yeah.
So that was true to form, and that was present time.
Yes.
So, but we'll get into that in a second. We see that Holly, our friend Holly, who is really weird.
Holly is so awesome.
Weird and awesome, and just all the things.
Weirdly awesome.
Yeah, weirdly awesome, and very smart, by the way.
Yes.
She's basically talking to a bartender where she's at, because we know that she is kind of off being a private investigator, kind of on this task about trying to find it and, what's going on. It's kind of the intricacies, matching up, where it happened here, where it happened here. She's going to these different towns and so on and so forth. She's talking to a bartender, trying to figure out, who the boogeyman is. And she starts to use deductive reasoning, which ends up being very helpful because she starts piecing together, patterns,
right?
Things that have happened, and to figure out, okay, this is what it is. Because I don't know if it was the last episode where she was in the bathtub and she, starts reading, and the lady that had visited, that said it was the cuckoo. So now using that as a catalyst, as a springboard, now going and saying, okay, if that's the case, then how are these all tied together?
Yep.
And she starts asking some great questions.
Yep.
By someone who's a local, and then ends up asking them, hey, can I pay you $200 to drive me around? But ends up doing that, and then now gets to end up, she starts taking pictures and seeing how, and this is something I wanted to bring to you as well, the gravesite, how they all look similar from the distance. So remember, she was taking pictures and she was sending it over to Ralph.
Right.
And she asked Ralph to
take one of Terry Maitland's.
Maitland's. And come to find out that that barn or whatever was really close by.
Yep.
What do you think is the significance of what she was doing with that? Because that's, again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I was confused this entire episode. I'm just being all the way real. So I need help. You there in the live chat, please help me out because I just have a lot of questions regarding this episode. So go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think with the Ohio gravesite, what was nearby on that one that was similar to Terry's?
Well, that's the part I don't know. Like she was showing, because remember when she sent him the pictures?
Yeah.
She was almost like it was clear to her, but it wasn't to him. He was like, what am I looking at?
I see. Well, okay, so I will say, at least as it relates to Terry's, right? Interesting that that his grave was there, and then essentially this hiding place or a place where there was ultimate new clues to be found as related to that case. So perhaps these other grave sites, there was a nearby location where additional artifacts were found related to the murders. That would be my assumption of what the connections would look like.
Okay.
Like a place where the cops would find some other stuff that was related to that murder.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like that one's a total TBD. I mean, there's definitely something with the grave sites.
Right. There's the way he's picking, and I think I feel like what she's getting at or what she's trying to get to is that how these people are getting picked.
That's the problem that I 100% have not figured out, because that seems random. Random in the sense of one person is the carrier or becomes targeted,
right? And
then subsequently, if another person happens to bump into them or go out on a date with them, oh, you're next,
right? And
that's I mean, it's random,
right?
I feel like we have to wait on that one too.
One thing that she did determine, which we kind of already suspected from watching it and seeing the pattern, is that the whole family ends up,
well,
being
this
affected.
Is another one, Lem, where,
with the exception of Jack, because we have not seen that happen with him, or
Terry's family. Still alive,
I was just going to say Terry's family, but all the other families that we've seen,
but also the one in New York. So we don't know if her whole family is dead or what that looks like. We know that there are people in her family that are dead.
Right.
But
well,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Not all the cousins and aunties and stuff.
Know.
I mean, but to the degree of like, okay, so we see
for sure the Dayton, Ohio guy, like the mother kills herself, and and then
but then we see even with what's his name, the one that was Heath. So we see his family being affected as well. So. And that's why I believe when she was at the gravesite and she was looking and she saw all the dead relatives.
Oh.
And so she's like, oh, I see, talking out loud, oh, you like to just kill everyone or you like to kill the family.
Oh, right. Well, it's the tear eater, or what is the name of the episode?
Fear eater?
Tear eater.
Tear eater?
Tear drinker. Tear drinker. You can't eat tears. I guess you could try. Tear drinker.
You freeze them.
Because the boogeyman feeds on grief. So I guess the more people dead in your family, the more grief there is.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
We'll just talk through this the whole time live and we'll figure it out. It'll be super awesome for everyone watching us.
It's just not very consistent. That's the only problem.
No, it's not.
And that's what makes it hard because we're like, okay, this is what he's doing.
Yeah.
This is what this boogeyman is doing. Wait, no, but he didn't do it this time.
I was actually surprised he could talk. Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised because we know that he could talk because he's said things.
Well, I didn't know if
to different people.
I didn't know if he was using someone else's body to talk to the kids.
Like you didn't know if he could be audible himself.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see it in this episode.
Okay, wait, hold on, one more thing. I also was thinking, is that Jack in a hood in Jeannie's house? I was thinking, like, is that the extent of the control where it's someone that's not the hooded man and it was like Jack with the hood on, and then I thought that she might see that it's Jack and go WTF kind of a thing. But obviously that didn't happen, but that was also in my mind where I was curious the extent of his presence in these situations, or if he's sending someone instead of himself.
You make a really good question, and again, we know nothing. We know absolutely nothing. But you make it good because if you think about everyone that has been spoken to directly by the boogeyman, you look at the young girls, right?
Yeah, we don't know if he was.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting to is that we know that they were spoken to.
Yes.
We know that it was directly involved by the boogeyman, right?
Yes.
We don't know if it was the boogeyman himself or another host, right? But what I'm trying to do, and I'm piggybacking on what you said, is that it doesn't seem like people, not that they're not afraid, but they seem like, oh, okay, like it's, oh, I get you. You know what I'm like? Even when Ginny, obviously she was startled because you have this hooded figure in your house, but when she went over,
I couldn't believe that.
Do you see what I'm saying? But I'm saying that to say, maybe it puts on because it's like when we see the face, what did you call it? Did you say something with the face?
I think April said like wooden face
or something like. Oh, April did.
Yeah.
And we see that in some of the scenes, right, where they're just kind of off in the distance, right? The camera just kind of closes in a little bit, just enough, and then that's it. But I'm wondering if they use, because we know that they're using other hosts, so if they're using the face to make them familiar. So, for instance, if let's just say, not getting predictions, but let's just say that the face was Jack's face. And she saw Jack's face. She knows Jack's face. She's going to be startled at first because there's a hooded thing. But when they come over and she's talking to him. But you know what? That doesn't make sense
either. Well, it doesn't make sense because she did that drawing.
Right,
and the drawing was of weird, distorted face man.
So scratch all of that.
I know.
This is hard. But when she did talk to him, or when he did talk to her,
she did seem calm.
She did seem calm, and that was weird to me.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, I would be if.
And also, I would not have sat down that close to that dude.
Well, he said sit down.
I know, but I would not have sat there.
And she walked in the glass.
I know.
And cut her feet.
The whole thing was just like. It was all like she was possessed. There was some level of possession.
Like a trance, almost like she was in a trance.
Yes.
And then he tells, of course, as a result, she tells, our boy, Ralph, her husband, that, hey, what he said, basically, hey, stop working that case. I think, something bad's going to happen. And his reply is like, something's bad already happened.
Yep.
Which is why I'm working this case.
Yeah.
And she basically, I was surprised that she flat out said, oh, I was visited by, this person. And he's like, wait, what? I thought she was just going to try to, on her own, be like, hey, don't worry, and just kind of badger him and be like, yeah, I think it's a good idea that you don't. And then him just concede and be like, okay, I won't. But she actually said, and maybe because he didn't, want to do it at first, want to listen to her, she's like, look, I was visited. I was told to tell you not to do it because some bad things are going to happen. Of course, he flips out because it's like, what's going on? Da, 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 da. And then he says, oh, you're dreaming.
Yeah.
And he puts it on that. What did you think about that part?
Well, I think that's the only way he can rationalize it. It doesn't make sense to him any other way, right? So he's still not connecting that this is like a supernatural event. It's the same thing with Terry Maitland's daughters, right? And when she was saying someone's visiting me,
right.
and he was just treating it like, oh, it's a nightmare kind of a thing, right? So in his reality, there can be no actual supernatural things visiting you for real.
Right.
It has to be, oh, you just had a bad dream, honey.
Right.
So that's just his. I'm curious, obviously, once Holly comes back and like really does the debrief on everything and how she's going to present the factoids, how then he's going to change his POV on what all this could look like. But he may not. It might be just totally against his everything to even consider it.
We see that, just looking at the previews for the upcoming episodes,
right.
He kind of is very defiant. He's like, well, I'm just doing regular police work.
Right.
He kind of says something to that effect, like, you guys are talking all this supernatural and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just really just trying to do, because that doesn't make sense to me. There has to be reasoning for everything.
Yep.
Which is why I think it's going to continue being an issue.
But at the same time, I think for Terry, with the facts alone and him seeing the fact that people were charged with murder and all these cases, these people were in two places at once, right? So in that, and he knows for sure you cannot be in two places at once unless, you've got an identical twin, and then maybe. Or if this is something totally out of this world, right? So I think he may be able to stretch the boundaries of what he believes to be real just because the facts are stating that that's the only option.
Right. Interesting.
Right? I mean...
No, I agree. I agree. We do see Holly goes into the Hostetter family home.
Yes.
And she is kind of in there. And it's all boarded up. And we get to the point where she sees what has happened and then sees the bed that we saw at the very beginning of the episode that's no mattress, but just nice and neat. And she thought that was weird in the midst of all that chaos.
It was weird in the sense of, because obviously so much time has already passed. So he came to the house like only a short while before she came, like almost as though he knew she was going to be at that house to see the bed. And that, I mean, it just... What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, she brought it up later.
Yeah.
Because she was like, I didn't understand why that happened.
Yeah.
Just to gotta, like, help me out here. Like, this didn't make sense. But obviously, the fact that we saw it at the very beginning, that was foreshadowing for us that we were supposed to kind of pay attention to that. So when we saw that bed again, it was like, oh, okay, that was at the very beginning.
But why?
I don't know. Yeah. That's the problem. Allison, I don't know.
I mean, because again, he went there deliberately to make a box spring, to not even make a bed, but just to lay sheets and bedding on a box spring.
Right. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. That part, help us out, please.
I feel like this whole show, we're like, help us.
Help us out. Comment below. Just use this right now. First of all, this show is always uploaded on iTunes and on the YouTubes. So when it's on the YouTubes, make sure you comment because we can see those comments.
Yeah.
And we want to know what you're thinking because this show is amazing, but it's also confusing as well. So we want to know what you think. We want to know how you feel about the episodes. What are your predictions? What do you feel like these nuances are? And that way we can, understand the show together. Boom, there it is.
Or be confused together.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That part.
But together.
Yeah. Together. That's the point. We do see that when she does visit the gravesite, that she does see a guy paying his respects and questions him, but gets nothing.
Yeah, he's like...
He just kind of runs off. Did you know at that point that was the same guy that got shot at the beginning of the show?
No, not at that point.
Okay.
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I'm like really trying to...
I did not.
I don't think I did.
I did not.
I think I realized it... I think I did realize it, though, at some point. Because I was thinking... Why are we being shown this guy?
Right.
And then because we didn't see his neck, right, at all with Holly, because she didn't see it.
No one with her. No.
I think he revealed something to her, like he said something oh, he doesn't want it this way, or he made some aside with her that made me go, oh, he's under the control of hooded creature. And that's when I went, oh, it's that guy.
Gotcha.
That's how I pieced it together. Did that make sense? Maybe. It did not make any sense.
No,
It
did.
I was like, was that English?
It
I don't know.
did. It did. But we do see that he is the same guy because we see the scene where he basically is pulling this gun on this guy, and
I was like, who's that guy?
Right, and that at this point, random.
Yeah, okay.
At this point,
so sad.
could be something else. But he pulls a gun on this guy in the parking lot. Police come at him. Their guns are drawn, and ultimately he ends up getting shot. And we find out that the gun has no bullets in it.
I'm really curious because obviously the cops see the stuff on the back of his neck. So I'm hoping obviously he's going to go in for some kind of an autopsy.
Sure.
And I'm actually now hoping that Detective Andy, right? Is it Andy? I think it's Andy.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
You're talking about Holly's homeboy.
So I'm hoping because, in the hotel room, she left that note or, just notes of hers that pieced together all the murders. He finds it. I don't know if she left it on purpose or not. I'm thinking she did not. Like, I think it was a...
You think it was accident?
Yeah, I do. Because she doesn't strike me as someone that just leaves stuff like that
Well,
behind.
that's why I thought that it was purposeful. Like, I thought she left
wanted
it
him
for
to
him to see it. Yes.
But it was like on the floor. Like, I don't know. It wasn't like on the anyway.
Gotcha.
Okay. So he finds it though. And now that he's in that city and now he's doing a little digging, I'm wondering if he's going to then be the one to go, hey, this guy came back with some stuff and he knew so-and-so. And so maybe that's how she figures out the weird crap that's going on people's necks. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
that's a big possibility.
Right?
That's a big possibility.
It looked like interest was peaked for him.
Sure.
He, like, eyebrows raised.
Yeah,
things
for sure.
were, okay.
They're very similar in that regard, which is why I think they,
Super couple.
Super. At the very end, we see that Ralph's son, who we haven't to this point seen, Ralph's deceased son visits him in kind of a pseudo dream and basically tells him that he needs to let him go.
Yeah, which was also really interesting because of all things to say, I didn't understand that, to be honest with you.
For me, I thought that it was something that should be said to the mom because I feel like he's kind of dealt with it. Ralph has. At least it appears that way. And the mom is the one that is still kind of holding on to it and all that kind of stuff. But he's kind of moved on. But yeah, it's an interesting omen to what that, represents.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, that's the sixth thing that I don't know.
I don't know.
Don't know anything.
Yeah.
You know what? I think it's hindsight time.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh. Do we have a noise?
Yes. There it is.
Oh. Mysterious.
I like
okay,
it.
so
Shout out to our producer.
Oh, good choice. So for this hindsight, and actually it's what I wanted to do last week, I want to turn this onto all of you again. Because there wasn't really anything in the episode where I thought, they should have rethought that and done it differently. What about you? Was there anything in the episode where you thought, why did they do it that way? You should have done it that way? Lem and I both are coming up with zilch.
We need your help. It's
zilch.
basically what we're saying. Let's go to the why.
I'm curious. Yeah.
We need your help.
Yeah.
Help us in this hindsight situation. We definitely can use your assistance in breaking down what is going on in the show.
And what they could have done differently, if anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I was thinking maybe something with Jack.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know. Let's see what all you say.
We'll see what you say.
Yeah.
All right. Predictions. Let's do it.
Predictions.
Yeah. Great job. Our producer is amazing. That was great. Hindsight
good
music. That's the permanent.
I like
hindsight
let's
music.
log that for hindsight music.
For sure.
I definitely thought so. Okay, well, no spoilers, but obviously we saw in the trailer for next week that Glory Maitland, she's definitely not into the supernatural idea whatsoever. And I'm really curious what's going to be the bridge for her into all of this. Because again, everyone's really trying to exonerate Terry that they're really driving at that, and she's resisting like all possibilities of what that could look like. Like it's not straightforward. So I'm hoping that with Holly and with everyone else, maybe that stone will turn for her. And I'm really hoping that we're going to get someone observing Jack and figuring out that he's got something. He is contracted a funky thing. And I need something going on there.
I think it's gonna come up in the next episode. I feel like
so.
At this point, because now he's kind of like, people are noticing that he's not himself. He himself is just frustrated with what's going on with him.
Yeah.
I feel like at some point in time, it's going to come out.
But he's not frustrated enough where he's telling Ralph, oh yeah, I saw this weird hooded thing at the barn and it did something to me.
Right.
So he's not with it enough to make that statement and have that level of honesty about the situation. He's still mentally controlled by this thing.
Yeah, and I honestly doesn't think he knows to the severity of what's wrong with him.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Although he did have the wherewithal to not hold the baby.
He did.
Which I thought, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
So...
yeah, his whole situation is interesting. But I think we're going to find out, what happens with
Episode 6.
Yeah.
All will be revealed.
All will be
Not
revealed.
really, but some stuff.
Maybe some.
Some
Maybe we'll get
stuff.
something. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our episode. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, everyone that was in live chat. Sorry we couldn't get to you. Make sure you comment.
Please.
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 Oh, please.
Yes.
Comment on this particular, for sure, this episode.
I'm going to check when I get home.
We need to find out what is going on. We need your help, audience members. I don't know if you could be as perplexed as we are, but I really need some help because there's a lot of answers that I need that I just can't figure out regarding the
Word.
show. Yes, I have been your host, Lim Gonzalez, and you can find me everywhere at Uncle Lim. Also, check out my website for everything I got going on stayonthemic.com.
Woo! And I'm Allison Dean, a.k.a. the AfterBuzz mascot as of today.
Yes.
And you can find me at the Allison Dean.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay, yay.
Yes, we will be back next week.
Yes.
Same bat time, same bat channel. We will have Wissenhant
Yes.
back with us, so we'll be fully staffed and ready to go, and hopefully we'll know some more stuff because you will help us.
Please, Lord.
Yes.
Yes.
Until then, peace.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.